Have you ever been walking and just thought to yourself, this is just too slow? I mean, what if you could keep that same walking motion, but suddenly you're moving at the speed of a light jog? Well, that's exactly the promise behind a pretty radical new category in personal mobility. We're talking about powered footwear.
And I think this quote just says it all. This is what a journalist at The Guardian said after trying a pair for the very first time. And it just perfectly captures that incredible aha moment, right? That feeling when you realize a basic human action could be completely transformed by a piece of tech. So, how do you even begin to wrap your head around this new technology? Well, probably the simplest and most powerful way to think about it, an analogy used by pretty much everyone from tiny startups to giant companies like Nike, is this. It's basically an e-bike for your feet.
Let's break that down. At its core, what we're really talking about is a new class of wearable robotics. And the key thing to get here is that this isn't about replacing walking. It's about augmenting it. Just like an e-bike gives you that little boost when you pedal, these devices give you a boost every time you step. The results? You can go faster and farther with way, way less effort. And listen, we are not talking about a small boost here. Get this, Shift Robotics, one of the big names in this space, claims their Moonwalkers can increase your normal walking speed by up to 250%. Yeah, you heard that right. That's pretty much the difference between a casual stroll and a steady jog, all without even breaking a sweat. To give you a feel for what that's actually like, a writer for PC Mag said that their first experience with that jolt of power literally made them gasp out loud. It's this surprising, almost superhuman feeling of being propelled forward with every single step.
Okay, so while the end goal is pretty much the same, make walking faster and easier, companies are actually taking two totally different approaches to get there. And it's a really fascinating split in engineering philosophy. So on one side, you have what you could call the motorized skate approach. This is what Shift Robotics is doing. It's an external gadget, basically a platform with powered wheels that you strap right onto your normal shoes. Think of it like you're adding an engine to your walk. But then on the other side, you've got the robotic exoskeleton from companies like Dephy, who are working with Nike. This is a much more integrated system. It's a powered brace that works with your body, directly helping out your muscles and tendons. So yeah, two very different ways to solve the same problem.
So let's look a little closer at the Moonwalkers. The big advantage here is versatility, right? You can strap them onto pretty much any shoe you own. They've got this clever AI system inside that actually learns how you walk, and the 8-wheel design is meant to handle stuff like cracks in the sidewalk. They even have a lock mode so you can go upstairs or just stand still without rolling away. The trade-off, though, is that it's still an external skate, so it adds bulk. But the payoff? A top speed of 7 miles per hour, which is a seriously fast walk. Now, compare that to Dephy and Nike's Project Amplify, which takes a completely different path. Instead of wheels, it's a robotic brace that's been described as a second set of calf muscles. A little motor and a drive belt actually physically lift your heel up with each step, taking a ton of the strain off your body. The big pro here is a much more natural feeling of assistance. It's not pushing you on wheels, it's just making your own walking motion feel totally effortless. The con? Well, it's all built into one specific shoe, so you lose that strap-on versatility. This whole design is less about crazy top speeds and more about cutting down fatigue for everyday walkers and joggers.
Okay, all of this sounds incredibly futuristic. I get it, but who are these things actually for? Well, it turns out the potential user base is surprisingly wide and, in some cases, really personal.
I mean, the applications really do span a huge spectrum. Of course, you've got the obvious one, city commuters, trying to solve that annoying last-mile problem from the subway to the office. But honestly, where it gets really interesting is when you start thinking about assistance and accessibility.
For example, as one person pointed out online, this could be a huge quality of life improvement for the elderly, helping them stay mobile and independent for longer.
And then you've got people who want to be more active, but are held back by common injuries. Someone mentioned how shin splints always stop them from getting into jogging. Well, this kind of tech could potentially reduce that exact kind of impact. And this quote right here, I think, highlights the most profound potential. For people with chronic conditions or disabilities, for them, this isn't just a fun gadget or a convenience. It's about maybe reclaiming the fundamental ability to move, to walk farther with less pain. I mean, that's a really powerful idea. But, while all that potential is super exciting, we've got to be realists. We have to look at the practical side of things. And just like with any brand new technology, there are some pretty big hurdles to clear.
you have to ask the tough questions, right? And one article from Extreme Tech put it very bluntly. It asked, is this just a solution to a problem that doesn't really exist? Are we just inventing a really complicated, really expensive way to do something we can, already do? It's a fair point that forces you to weigh the benefits against the costs. And that brings us to the first major hurdle, the price tag. Yeah, right now, this is not cheap. The Moonwalkers from Shift Robotics are going to set you back about $1,400. And Dephy Sidekick, that exoskeleton model, is currently listed at $4,500. So for now, this is definitely early adopter tech, and it's far out of reach for most people. And it's not just the price. There are other real-world issues. For the Moonwalkers, you're only looking at a range of about 6 to 7 miles on a single charge. And they're heavy, over 5 pounds on each foot. Plus, since they have wheels, they're pretty much useless on anything that isn't paved. So forget about sand, grass, or hiking trails. And then there's a longer-term question that people have brought up. If you rely on these all the time, could your own muscles actually get weaker over time? It's something to think about. So if we put aside the practical stuff for just a second, what does the arrival of powered footwear really mean for us? Because this isn't just a new gadget. It feels like it's part of a much bigger conversation about, human augmentation. This quote from a super popular sci-fi universe that was posted on Reddit kind of captures the whole sentiment, maybe a little dramatically. But still, we are actively building technology to overcome our own natural physical limits. And this isn't science fiction anymore. Wearable robotics are already here. In super advanced factories, like the ones Hyundai has, workers are already using powered exoskeletons to help them do things like work overhead for hours without getting tired. Powered footwear is really just the consumer version of a trend that's already happening in the industrial world. And the implications for just fun and recreation are fascinating to think about. I mean, just like e-bikes have totally created a new category in cycling, we could easily see a future where sports are split into assisted and unassisted leagues. Can you imagine 5K races or hiking groups with completely different rules depending on the gear you're using? And that really brings us to the final thought, doesn't it? Is this the future? Are we headed towards a world where plugging in your shoes at night right next to your phone is just a normal thing to do? This technology sits at this really fascinating crossroads of convenience, accessibility, and human enhancement. And whether it ends up as a niche gadget for the rich or a truly transformative tool for everyone else, that's a question that's going to be answered one superpowered step at a time.